The Jags take on the Bengals, 8:20 p.m. Eastern kickoff this Thursday. Cincinnati's -7, totals 45.5. And if you like Jacksonville in an upset victory on the road, they're plus 270 for some money line cash. And if you want to see which one of these free picks on this video that I'm actually betting on personally, there's only one way to do that, and that's to sign up for my NFL tier membership picks on BrockPage.com, where we actually went 2-0 with a push in our 3 premium NFL picks for Week 3. Now, the winless Jaguars have failed to cover the point spread in all 3 of their losses. Trevor Lawrence is completing just 54% of his passes, and he's thrown 7 interceptions already. Meanwhile, defensively, Jacksonville allows over 300 yards a game passing. They're taking on a Cincinnati team who's 2-1 on the year themselves, and they've covered the number twice during that span. The Cincinnati defense has certainly stepped it up. They're in the top 5 in fewest yards allowed per play. Logan Wilson leads the NFL with 3 interceptions from that linebacker position. He's also leading Cincinnati with 30 total tackles. The Bengals are holding their opponents to under 80 yards a game rushing. Now, Suafilo, Waynes, Awuzie, and Higgins, they're all questionable for Cincinnati. Austin, Norwell, Robertson Harris, Herndon, Smith, Robinson, and Tufele, they're listed as questionable for Jacksonville. When it comes to the number in this one, the Jags saw their last 2 straight stay under the number. Cincy's 2-0 to the under in their last 2 themselves. Give me the Cincinnati Bengals -7 and the under 45.5. Next contest, Panthers Cowboys, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff this Sunday. The Dallas Cowboys are -5, totals 50.5. Dallas is on a 2-game winning streak, and they successfully covered the number in all 3 of their ball games this year. Dak Prescott's completing 78% of his passes for 878 yards and 6 touchdowns. His Dallas offense is in the top 10 in pass yards per game. They're taking on a Carolina team who's a little bit banged up despite their impressive record. Christian McCaffrey's out with a hammy. Miller, Henderson, and Gross Matos, along with Smith, they're all questionable for Carolina as well. And if you're into prop betting, the Panthers are currently in the bottom 10 in third quarter scoring, so maybe there's a little bit of a third quarter angle there you can go off of. Now, total-wise, Carolina's 3-0 to the under for the season. I'm going to lean toward the Dallas Cowboys -5 and the under 50.5. Next game, Titans versus the Jets, 1 o'clock East. The Titans are -7, totals 45. The Titans are on a 2-game winning streak, and they covered the number in both of those victories. Tennessee's in the top 3 in rushing, and they're led by Derrick Henry, who's averaging over 115 yards a game, along with 3 scores. Now, Tennessee's taking on a winless Jets team who scores fewer points than any other team in the league. Rookie Zach Wilson has completed just 55% of his passes, and he's thrown 7 interceptions already. Needless to say, the Jets are also in the bottom 3 in the league in offensive yards per play. Now, Tyler Kroft is questionable for New York. Coleman, Crowder, Mims, Pirine, and Moore, they're all questionable as well. Meanwhile, on the other side, Jones, Ferkser, Brown, and Farley, they're listed as questionable for the Titans. When it comes to the number in this one, Tennessee's seen 2 out of their last 3 stay under the line. Meanwhile, the Jets are 3-0 to the under in their for the entire season. I'm going to lean toward the Tennessee Titans -7 and the under 45. Next game, Browns Vikings, 1 o'clock Eastern start time. Cleveland's -2 on the road. Totals 51.5. Now, Cleveland's looked pretty good thus far in the season. Having said that, though, they still rank in the bottom half of the league in pass yards per game. As a matter of fact, the Browns are in the bottom 3 in pass attempts per game. Newsom's out. Hubbard and Taki are questionable. Cleveland's taking on a Minnesota team who covered the number in their last 2 straight. And as much as everyone rags on Kirk Cousins, they really like to bang on him. They even do it in the comments section here on YouTube. But as much as everyone hates Cousins, Minnesota's scoring 29 points a game, and they rank in the top 10 in passing. Cousins is completing 74% of his passes for 918 and 8 touchdowns. Cousins has also thrown 0 interceptions. The Vikes are currently in the top 10 in offensive yards per play. Now, Anthony Barr and Dalvin Cook, they're questionable. Keep an eye on those guys. When it comes to the total in this one, Minnesota saw 2 out of their last 3 get over the line. Meanwhile, Cleveland saw their first 2 contests of 2021 get over the total themselves. Give me Minnesota +2 and the over 51.5. Next matchup, Texans, Bills, 1 o'clock East. The Buffalo Bills are -16, totals 47. Buffalo's on a 2-game winning streak, 2-0 against the spread in those victories. The Bills are in the top 5 in scoring. They're led by Josh Allen, who's thrown for over 800 yards and 7 scores. His Bills receiving core has 3 wideouts with over 190 yards receiving already. Meanwhile, defensively, Buffalo's in the top 3 in fewest yards allowed per play. They're taking on a Houston club who's got a rookie starting at quarterback. The Texans are in the bottom 10 in offensive yards per play, and they rush for only 94 yards a game. Mitchell, Grugier, Hill, and Reed, they're all questionable for Houston. When it comes to the total in this one, 7 out of Houston's last 10 meetings with Buffalo stayed under the line. Meanwhile, the Bills saw 2 out of their last 3 ball games stay under the total themselves. Give me Buffalo -16 in the under 47. Next contest, it is going to be Giants versus the Saints, 1 o'clock East. The New Orleans Saints are -8, totals 42. But despite their current success, the Saints are actually having some problems with moving the football. They're in the bottom 5 in the league in offensive yards per play. They're also throwing for just $113 a game. Jameis Winston's completing only 60% of his passes for a total of only 387 yards. As a matter of fact, New Orleans' leading receiver, Deontay Harris, he's averaging only 37 receiving yards a game. Now, New Orleans is taking on a Giants team who does have the ability to run the football. I know they've looked bad through 3 contests, but they do have the ability to run. And they're averaging nearly $110 a game on the ground. New York's also in the top 5 in fewest first quarter points allowed on the defensive end. Azeez Ojulari has 3 sacks, a forced fumble, and 2 tackles for loss. And you just want to real quick keep an eye on Shepard and Slayton. They're both listed as questionable for New York. Now, total-wise, the Giants went 6-1 at the over in their last 7 contests with New Orleans. So if you're into historical trends, you may want to look over with this one. They also saw their Week 2 matchup with Washington fly nearly 20 points above the posted total. Give me the New York Football Giants +8 and the over 42. Next ball game, Lions, Bears, 1 o'clock East. Chicago's -3, totals 42. Now, Chicago's lost 2 of 3, and they have significant problems offensively. The Bears are scoring just 13 points a game. They're dead last in the NFL in passing. Chicago's currently averaging just 90 yards a game passing through the air. That's kind of like some Air Force/Navy Army numbers there. But anyway, needless to say, the Bears are dead last in offensive yards per play. Now, they're taking on a Lions team who successfully covered the number in 2 out of their last 3. This Detroit offense is in the top 10 in the league in fourth quarter scoring. Jared Goff's completing 70% of his passes for over 800 yards and 5 scores. Flowers and Strong are questionable for Detroit. Dalton, Gibson, Mack, Goldman, and Fields, they're questionable for the Bears. Now, total-wise, Detroit saw 2 out of their last 3 get over the number. Meanwhile, Chicago saw their Week 1 contest with the Rams get over the line themselves. Give me Detroit +3 and the over 42. Next ball game, Colts, Dolphins, 1 o'clock Eastern start time. Miami's -2, totals 42.5. Now, Miami's on a 2-game losing streak, bottom 3 in the league in scoring. Miami's throwing for just 175 yards a game, and they rank in the bottom 3 in yards per play from scrimmage. They're taking on a Colts team who's in the top 10 in fewest third quarter points allowed. This Colts defense has 6 takeaways already, and they're led by safety Kari Willis, who's got 21 total tackles and an interception. Now, keep an eye on Willis. He's currently battling a groin. Nelson, Smith, Yassine, and Glasgow, they're all questionable for Indy. When it comes to the total on this one, Indy's Week 2 matchup with the Rams did get over the posted number. Meanwhile, the Dolphins saw their game this past Sunday fly almost 15 points above the posted number themselves. Give me the underdog Indianapolis Colts +2 and the over 42.5. Next contest, it is going to be Chiefs versus the Eagles, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Kansas City's -7, totals 54.5. Despite a rough start for Kansas City backers this season, we're still looking at a Chiefs team who's got one of the best offenses in the game. Patrick Mahomes, he's completing over 70% of his passes for 940 yards and 9 scores. His favorite target's been Travis Kelce, who has 289 total receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. The Chiefs are in the top 5 in the league in offensive yards per play. They're taking on an Eagles team who lost their last 2 straight, and they've also been struggling to move the football. The Birds are currently in the bottom 10 in scoring on average per game. They're also in the bottom 5 in offensive time of possession. McLeod, Mailata, and Taylor, they're all listed as questionable for the Birds. Clark, Ward, and Fenton, they're questionable for the Chiefs. Total-wise, the Chiefs saw their Week 3 contests with the Chargers stay under the number. Meanwhile, the Eagles saw 2 out of their last 3 stay under the line themselves. Give me Kansas City -7 and the under 54.5. Next contest, it is going to be football team versus the Falcons, 1 o'clock Eastern start time. The Washington football team is -1.5, totals 47 and a hook. Washington has failed to cover the point spread in all 3 of their games. They're in the bottom 3 in offensive time of possession, and their leading rusher averages just 63 yards a game on the ground, and he's yet to score a rushing touchdown. Meanwhile, defensively on the other side of the ball, Washington is allowing nearly 310 yards a game through the air. They're taking on an Atlanta team who's coming fresh off a 3-point victory over the Giants, and as much as they're struggling, Atlanta still ranks in the upper half of the league in third quarter scoring. Matt Ryan is completing 71% of his passes, and he's thrown for 4 touchdowns. Now Gage, Terrell, Davidson, and Darby, they're all questionable for Atlanta. And when it comes to the number in this one, the Falcons saw their Week 2 matchup with Tampa Bay get over the number. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, the football team saw their last 2 straight get over the line themselves. Give me the Atlanta Falcons +1.5 and the over 47 and a hook. Next ball game should be a good one. It is going to be Cardinals versus the Rams, 4:05 Eastern start time. The LA Rams are -4.5, totals 55. Now the undefeated Rams have covered the number in 2 out of their last 3 ball games. They're averaging 32 points a game, and they rank in the top 3 in offensive yards per play. Matthew Stafford's completing over 70% of his passes for 942 yards and 9 scores. His favorite target's been Cooper Kupp, who's averaging over 122 receiving yards a game, along with 5 touchdowns. Meanwhile, defensively, LA's in the top 10 in fewest points allowed. Now they're taking on an Arizona Cardinals team who failed to cover the number against Minnesota in Week 2. Now, the Arizona Cardinals, they're actually having some serious problems stopping the run. Arizona's allowing over 140 yards a game rushing on the ground. Now, Beachum, Pugh, and Murray, they're all questionable for the Cards. When it comes to the scoring in this one, Arizona's Week 2 contest with Minnesota did get over the posted number. Meanwhile, the Rams are 3-0 to the over thus far in the season. Give me the LA Rams -4.5 and the over 55. Next ball game, another one should be a good one. I'm talking about the Seahawks versus the Niners, 4:05 Eastern Standard Time. San Francisco's -3, totals 52. The 49ers failed to cover in 2 out of their last 3. They're also in the bottom 10 in first quarter scoring. Meanwhile, defensively, the Niners have struggled with stopping the run. They're in the bottom 10 in rush yards allowed per contest. Meanwhile, the Seahawks on the other side of things, well, they're actually gaining nearly 110 rush yards a game. Their offense also leads the NFL in offensive yards per play from scrimmage. Russell Wilson's completing over 73% of his passes for 895 yards and 7 touchdowns. Russ has yet to throw an interception. Meanwhile, wide receiver Tyler Lockett, he's averaging over 103 yards a game receiving, along with 3 scores. Mayawa, Hyder, Shell, Blair, and Eskridge, they're all questionable for Seattle. Norman, Armstead, Kittle, and Kinlaw, they're questionable for the Niners. Now, total-wise, 8 out of San Francisco's last 10 meetings with Seattle got over the number. The Niners also saw 2 out of their last 3 ball games get over the total this season themselves. Give me Seattle plus 3 in the over 52. Next ball game, Steelers, Packers, 4:25 Eastern kickoff. The Green Bay Packers are -7, totals 45.5. Green Bay's on a 2-game winning streak. Successful covers in both of those victories. This Packer defense ranks in the top 10 in fewest pass yards allowed. Devondre Campbell has 31 total tackles, an interception, and a fumble recovery. The Packers are in the top 10 in fewest first quarter points allowed. They're taking on a Pittsburgh team who's having serious problems moving the football. They're currently dead last in rushing, and they're also averaging only 16 points a game. Now, the Steelers have scored just 1 rushing touchdown on the season, and their leading rusher is averaging only 41 yards a game. And of course, Ben Roethlisberger, I called him Ben Slothlessberger the other week. I'll tell you what, Big Ben is looking slower than molasses in January. He cannot move back there. Watt, Smith-Schuster, Okorafor, Johnson, Highsmith, and Davis, they're all questionable for Pittsburgh. King, Jenkins, Scott, and Barnes for the Packers. Green Bay saw their last 2 straight get over the number. 6 out of their last 7 with the Steelers got over the line as well. If you're into historical trends, give me Green Bay -7 in the over 45.5. Next matchup, Ravens, Broncos, 4:25 Eastern start time. The Denver Broncos are -1, totals 45. But as good as the Broncos' record is, just keep in mind they defeated pretty much arguably the worst teams in professional football. They beat the Jets, Jags, and Giants in their opening 3 ball games. They're also taking on a Baltimore team who's on a 2-game winning streak, and they lead the league in rushing. Lamar Jackson's averaging over 7 yards a carry. He's also thrown for 761 yards and 5 total combined scores. This Baltimore offense is in the top 5 in yards per play from scrimmage. Meanwhile, this Ravens defense is allowing just 79 yards a game on the ground. Wolf, Williams, Elliott, Bateman, and Boykin, they're all questionable for Baltimore. Glasgow and Rissner are questionable for Denver. Total-wise, Baltimore's Week 3 matchup with Detroit fell 15 points below the posted number. Meanwhile, Denver's 3-0 to the under thus far in the year. Give me the Baltimore Ravens +1 in the under 45. Next contest I have for you, it is going to be Sunday Night Football. I'm talking about the Buccaneers versus the Patriots, 8:20 Eastern kickoff this Sunday night. The Tampa Bay Bucks are -7, totals 49. Tampa Bay's in the top 3 in scoring, top 3 in passing. Tom Brady is completing nearly 70% of his passes for almost 1,100 yards already and 10 touchdowns. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans each have over 200 yards receiving. The Bucs are in the top 10 in the league in offensive yards per play from scrimmage. They're taking on a New England team who's having a very tough time moving the football. They're currently in the bottom 10 in offensive yards per play. And they're rushing for under 95 yards a game. And, of course, they got a rookie quarterback at the helm. New England's averaging just 18 points per contest. And Mac Jones, he's thrown for only 2 touchdowns compared to 3 interceptions. Now, Brown and Uche, they're both questionable for New England. Pierre-Paul, Bernard, Mickens, and Dean, they're questionable for Tampa Bay. When it comes to the number in this one, the Bucs are 3-0 to the over thus far in the year. Give me Tampa Bay -7 and the over 49. And with that, now it's time for our next and final matchup. Raiders versus the Chargers, 8:15 Eastern start time on Monday Night Football. The LA Chargers are -4, totals 52.5. LA failed to cover the number in their Week 2 loss to Dallas. They've also shown little interest in establishing a run game. LA's averaging less than 90 yards per contest on the ground. Meanwhile, defensively, these guys are the worst team in the league when it comes to stopping the run. They're allowing 170 yards a game on the ground. Now they're taking on an undefeated Raiders team who's covered the number twice in their 3 victories this year. The Raiders are leading the league in passing as Derek Carr's thrown for over 1,200 yards already, along with 6 touchdowns. Now he's got 4 receivers with over 200 yards already. Meanwhile, defensively on the other side of the ball, Las Vegas is in the top 10 in fewest yards allowed per play. Levitt, Jacobs, Teamer, and Morig, they're all questionable for Las Vegas. Harris, James, and Jones, they're questionable for the Chargers. When it comes to the scoring in this one, Vegas saw their Week 2 meeting with Pittsburgh stay under the number. Meanwhile, LA's 3-0 to the under thus far in the season themselves. Give me the Raiders +4 and the under 52.5. With that, guys, now it's time for our quick pick recap. Powered to you by my website at brockpage.com, where we went 2-0 with a push in our premium Week 3 NFL tier package picks on that website. Give me Cincinnati -7, under 45.5. Dallas -5, under 50 and a hook. Tennessee -7, under 45. Minnesota +2, over 51.5. Buffalo -16, under 47. New York Giants +8, over 42. Detroit +3, over 42 points. Indianapolis +2, over 42.5. Kansas City -7, under 54 and a hook. Atlanta +1.5, over 47.5 points. LA Rams -4.5, over 55. Seattle +3, over 52. Green Bay -7, over 45 and a hook. Baltimore +1, under 45. Tampa Bay -7, over 49. Before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we went 2-0 with a push in our 3 premium NFL tier package picks on brockpage.com during Week 3. I'm going to lean toward the Las Vegas Raiders +4 and the under 52.5. And with that, guys, now it's time for our shout out of the day. And that's going to go to my man, Biff Hooper, who said earlier today, "Thanks, Brock, you the man." All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on brockpage.com. Now, if you guys do end up getting a membership here today, just keep in mind, we use the Patreon platform. Patreon's going to bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So you probably just want to wait until October 1st to get a package. I always tell folks the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Wednesday to you. Happy hump day to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at brockpage.com.